voice at high speed.
I'm excited.
I'm excited.
I'm Jay Fidel.
And I'm Russell Leo.
All right, this is Think Tank. In fact, this is Asia in Review.
Asia in Review.
Okay, and we're going to discuss the TPP. Now, let me, in the way of background, let me say that it was about a week ago when Xi Jinping was in Davos. Do you remember this, Russell?
Yes.
And it was really interesting because there were a lot of leaders in Davos, and he became the hero. He got a long, like 5 minutes plus, standing ovation in Davos. Why? Why did he get the standing ovation? Because he said China will protect globalism. China is expanding and endorses and supports globalism. Now, of course, the flip side of that was he was making an attack on Donald Trump, who's, going the other direction entirely, and folding in the borders of the United States in every way. That's very interesting that he did that Xi Jinping did that. It's also interesting that all the countries that were there liked it, what he said. And I think it really talks about it defines our times in terms of globalism versus non-globalism. Trump is going his way, Xi Jinping is going his way, but the world understands and supports and agrees with Xi Jinping. It makes him kind of a moral leader in this matter. And here we are, abandoning our leadership, which we have had, since 1945 anyway. Yeah. So I guess the question is, what exactly is Donald Trump doing to build these new walls against international trade, walls against globalism? And I know that one thing he's doing is he's trying to rip down TPP, back out of it. Now that's odd because China was not a part of it in the first place, but China, supports the notion. What is China's position on TPP? How is it affected by Trump's backing out?
Jay, that's a really good question because TPP, well, for our audience, let's tell them what TPP stands for.
Yeah.
TPP stands for Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Yeah.
Now, this was a partnership agreement among Pacific Rim nations and U.S., including Japan, Vietnam, I believe South Korea, some of the Pacific Rim nations, and it would give them a preferential status for them to ship things tariff-free to the U.S. China was not included in the TPP, but it was a signs of a new age when they started talking about TPP. And so what China has been doing is it's already planned for that without TPP. It knew that it could not be a part of TPP because the biggest hurdle for China to join TPP was to ensure intellectual property protection, which is a very big task for China to do. So what it has been doing over the years is actually been doing globalism, going out of China. For example, what we see today, let's fast forward. China has been quietly working with, for example, the countries in Central America, in South America, Latin America. One of the big proposals was to help them build the infrastructure, building a rail that would go coast to coast across Brazil, to Peru, Ecuador, and this would bring great benefits because—
It's interesting that we never did that.
Well, again, it's a different political strategy. I'm not a politician, and I'm not going to venture in that water. But we had a different way of doing things. Our way of American life means that for one thing is the governance, how to govern people. Okay, we had a certain way of if we're going to give economic aid. China has been more. We're going to come in. We're going to help you with your infrastructure, and it's also benefits China because Central America, Latin America is rich in resources, things that they would need in China.
Yeah, well, I think, his view of it, and he's been, I would say, consistent, if not increasing in the intensity of his view over the past few years, is to connect everything up, to be global. I mean, to Friedman, Thomas Friedman, globalism everywhere. I mean, for example, CCTV. I don't know if you and Ray Tsujiyama talked about that on one of your shows, but CCTV was all within China until about 3 years ago. And then Xi Jinping decided, let's make CCTV global. Let's put it everywhere so that we can get our message out. And so from a communications point of view, public relations, a branding point of view, now, 3 years later, CCTV is everywhere. And
Right.
not in the US, I might add, for some reason it's not here, but it's everywhere else. And it just shows you that China knows how to reach out.
Yes.
Secondly, and this is something you did talk about last week with Ray Tsuchiyama, and I'm happy that you did, is the train. The train is a phenomenal statement of globalism. You start in China and you go, what, 5,000, 6,000 miles to the heart of Europe, and you deliver goods. That is brilliant. That is an example of trade and globalism, and everyone stands in awe of connecting and reminiscent of the train across South America, don't you think?
That's right. Well, getting back to Tom Friedman, remember his book, We are one world. We're all connected. There are no borders. The borders are all political boundaries. And we're connected because today, even more so, because we have internet. The knowledge is there for everyone. So now nations, the countries and nations have developed rapidly because of the internet. They're able to get the knowledge, access to knowledge. So again, we don't need to have boundaries like, as Tom Friedman said, we're just one big global village. And in doing so, building the infrastructure is what China's been doing. The big train, it's actually has arrived in London. And along the way, it makes stops at all these smaller countries, carrying goods, picking up goods, dropping goods. Connecting. And so we're having a change. And, you know, I hate to say it, maybe this Davos one day, this conference that you talked about, is going to be when the global order has changed. Just when the sunset over the empire from the British Empire. And how Britain became, again, closed its borders. You know, but now Britain's opening up to China. You know, there's a lot of synergy.
They're smart, they will.
They're smart. And so, again, getting back to this, you know, TPP, getting back to
Well,
TPP.
before we leave the subject, though, it seems to me that despite all of that, China wants to develop hegemony. It wants to be powerful. It wants to be the #1 country in the world. And it sees the route to that as closely intertwined with globalism, with trade. It's not only the trade, but it wants to dominate the trade.
And I'm going to add when we come back, or I guess we're going to take a break, about the breaking news that we have seen in the last day or so. And it's very important that we touch on that, Jay, and things that President Trump has said publicly. His new Rex Tillerson has talked about it, and it's a little bit alarming, and we're going to talk about that.
Okay, don't be too alarmed. Be a little alarmed. We're going to take a short break. Don't be alarmed about that. But when we come back, we'll talk about the other reasons for alarm. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Chris Leatham with The Economy and You, and I'd like to invite you each week to come watch my show each Wednesday at 3 p.m.
Thank you for watching Think Tech. I'm Grace Chang, the new host for Global Connections. You can find me here live every Thursday at 1 p.m., where we'll be talking to people around the islands or visiting the islands who are connected in various aspects of global affairs. So please tune in, and aloha, and thanks for watching.
Aloha. My name is John Waihe'e, and I actually had a small part to do with what's happening today. Served actually in public office. But if you don't already know that, here's a chance to learn more about what's happening in our state by joining me for Talk Story with John Waihe'e every other Monday. Thank you, and I look forward to your seeing us in the future.
Okay, we're back. We're live. I'm Jay Fidel here on Think Tech's Asia in Review, and my co-host and contributor, regular contributor on this show. In fact, the host of the show technically is Russell Liu. Russell, hi.
Hi.
So let's talk about the alarming information that you wanted to reveal and discuss before the break.
Well, I think we just had some breaking news, not only besides TPP, but there was headlines about the new message that President Trump wants to send to China, that we're going to take an aggressive posture in the South China Seas, and we're going to make sure that we're going to stop the Chinese from expanding what they're doing, building their islands and so forth, which is may tantamount to be a naval blockade. Some things we want to do.
You mean we're going to engage in
We're going to
naval
engage
blockade
that. We're going to take that issue head
stop
on.
them from building the island they started.
And it's very interesting because all the think tanks in Washington, D.C. says that there's no basis of international law for us to do that. That may be tantamount to act of war. There is no international law that justifies us to do that. So there are some ominous signs coming ahead, Jay, which may trigger other facets in this relationship.
Well, you can bet
between
they
China
will.
And sure, it's going to be.
You know, he triggered all the carrier going through the Straits of Formosa there a couple of weeks ago. He's triggering a cooling of the relationship. Gee whiz.
And he's talked about revisiting the Taiwan relationship, the one China policy.
It's a serious threat
Very,
to
very
them
serious.
and thus to us.
To them and to the world, because it has implications to how countries around the world will view the United States. Are we going to be an ally, or are we going to be shifting towards China?
Well,
it's an opportunity for China, really.
Yeah, it
to-
is an
to
opportunity for
capitalize.
China. And I think Xi Jinping, if he's smart, and he is very smart, will use it as an opportunity. And he will again take the moral high road. And he will, make advances by trade, by globalism, by international connection, and make us look like we build walls.
And you know what's very interesting is because what that causes, as President Trump announced, that we're going to get closer, we're going to warm up to Russia. Now, what's going to happen is that all the European nations are already starting to get worried. In fact, just over last week, the UK's had put their tanks on the tracks and ran it under the underwater tunnel to take it to Europe to see how fast and whether logistically it could do that. And they're ramping up because they're afraid of that.
Tanks in the-
tanks, actual tanks.
In the channel?
In the
Tanks
channel,
in the
yes, yes.
First time that's happened.
First time that's happened, and so they're alarming news. So that means there's a shift in where China's going to be, and China has a very closer relationship with the UK than we are today, possibly because of economic ties. So Europe may be shifting more towards a China than the
Can't
U.S.
take anything for granted anymore. No assumptions anymore. It's all in a cocked hat, so to speak.
And so again, that's to China's advantage.
And the other thing is that, he made this ridiculous statement to say that he thought that Angela Merkel, who is a great leader, done amazing things in Germany and handled, humanitarian issues as well as could ever be expected for Germany. Including all the immigrants, the migrants coming in, and then she was offering them so much solace and support. She's a great leader. And he put him on a parody, Trump did. He said, Angela Merkel, who is a great leader, really, and Putin, who is not nearly a great leader and is suspected of all kinds of bad acts, huge bad crimes. He put him on an equality. I don't understand that, but that alienates Europe, doesn't it?
It does, it certainly does. And so again, we're seeing a lot of signs here where possible geopolitical shifts will occur, and getting back to the economic world, the reality, getting back to it. I think if we're going to look at the U.S., there's one question that we have is, okay, if Trump does certain things, for example, he's talked also about renegotiating NAFTA. That's the treaty with Mexico and Canada. We're going to change it, the equation. Does that mean we also will change the Central America Free Trade Agreement? So we're going to see a very, very delicate situation where these countries, which don't export a lot of things to the U.S., what's going to happen? The Chinese are investing heavily in Latin South America.
They're going to see it as an opportunity, Russell. They're going to move in. They're going to have the kind of relationship we should have had. We worked to have for how many decades. They're going to enjoy that relationship, and we're going to be on the outs.
Yes.
That's what's going to happen. We're going to
Exactly.
shut in by our own wall.
We're closing our borders. That's what
Yeah.
we're doing. And the second thing where we're getting to the heart of the show is that a big thing is, remember that we closed our factories, our manufacturing infrastructure 30 years ago. It's too expensive. We couldn't afford it. Where's the money? We don't have the money to rebuild it. Look at our train system. We don't have the money to rebuild this.
bridges, the
infrastructure.
highways, you
bridges,
name it.
essential to do business within our borders, essential for manufacturing.